The year was 2010. After getting my tonsils removed, my mom gifted me with two things for going through the process. The first was a bunch of slushies while I was recovering, which was more so because that was one of the only things I could eat or drink during the recovery process. But the second and more important one was Kirby's epic yarn. Now I should explain something first. Up until this point, I didn't love video games. I had played Mario Kart Wii a lot, but I didn't love it because I sucked at the game. It was to the point where I'd intentionally drive into a wall again and again just to stop playing the game. But that's a topic for another video. When I first played Kirby's Epic Yarn, it became my first video game love. Probably the main reason for that was I actually knew what I was doing, but the point is it sparked my love for Kirby. Throughout the following 8 or so years, I played almost every single Kirby game, including all of the mainline entries, and loved almost all of them. Kirby became one of my favorite characters, and his games, one of my favorite series. I had a Kirby plush that I brought on almost every vacation, that was sorely missed when I lost it a couple years back. I love Kirby, which is exactly why I think changes need to happen soon. Let's cover why. The mainline Kirby series can be separated into 4 distinct eras. The Sakurai Trilogy, lasting from 1992 to 1996, included Kirby's Dream Land, Kirby's Adventure, and Kirby Superstar. These are the games in the series headed by Masahiro Sakurai himself, creator of the Kirby series along with Super Smash Bros. Each of these games built onto the base concept of what Kirby is. Sakurai's trilogy is probably the most growth Kirby saw, and everything that came after took strong inspiration from it. Then there was the Dark Matter trilogy, which lasted from 1994 to 2000. These games went for something much different, building on ideas of experimentation and collectibles. Dreamland Free is one of my favorites in the series, and the central elements of the Dark Matter trilogy are part of the reason for that. Finding collectibles in Dreamland Free is an incredibly fun element of the game, and adds quite a lot more difficulty than the rest of the series has. This line of games also saw a lot of growth throughout, but it stuck in said trilogy for the most part. Next up, there was the Flagship era. Mainline Kirby was taking a little bit of a break, but Capcom's team Flagship stepped in to make some. Flagship made some really cool Zelda and Kirby stuff, and I'm sad they closed their doors. These games have a much higher focus on exploring for collectibles off the beaten path. Amazing Mirror itself was completely open. However, I feel this era was held up a lot more by spin-offs and remakes. Kirby's era is something that's remembered a lot more fondly and a lot more often than the mainline games from this time, and Kirby Superstar is often regarded as the best in the series. Finally, there's the Return era. This has 4 games. To be honest, you can draw some parallels to New Super Mario Bros. There was the critically acclaimed first game, the second game that's also pretty basic, then a third game with an interesting gimmick, and a 4th game at the point that everyone has gotten tired of the formula. Star Allies itself isn't a problem, it's a lovely game, and even if it was initially disappointing, I still enjoy it. Hell, after the post-launch content was added, it feels a lot more worth the $60 price tag, especially if you're a Kirby fan. Even at launch, the game had loads of nods to previous titles and really felt like an anniversary game, but after the new characters were added, there was so much fan service in the game, and the new characters themselves are incredibly fun. Along with that, the Heroes in Another Dimension mode is fun from what I've played. Even outside of post-launch content and side modes, I found the boss battles to be phenomenal, making the arena modes incredibly fun. They might be easy to defeat, but that doesn't stop them from being fun to defeat. Star Allies can be a pretty fun time, and like all other Kirby games, I enjoy it. I've logged 30 hours on it. But if it's emblematic of Kirby's future, it's not going to be good. Star Allies removes a lot of incentive to grab collectibles and explore by removing the equivalent to code cubes like those of Planet Robobot. All you have is puzzle pieces, which, while cool, don't replace a major mechanic of those previous free games. Because those collectibles unlocked extra levels and helped you progress, there was a lot more incentive to collect them. To be fair, they do provide a nice bonus, and I was motivated to collect the stickers in Robobot. But when you only have one major collectible, there's a lot less incentive to look around for hidden areas. Beyond a few switches unlocking secret stages, there isn't a huge incentive to explore at all, really. While it's fine to have collectibles with no incentives, a game feels a lot better designed when there's actually a use for them beyond some neat art. Maybe I'm just a hypocrite though, because in Superliminal, collectibles are completely useless, and that's my favorite game of all time. So I guess it all just really depends on if the collectibles are fun to collect. The bottom line is collectibles in Star Allies aren't the most fun to collect, and I like how other games handle it more. Star Allies doesn't really make abilities feel useful either. Recently, I was playing Planet Robobot, which in the process became my favorite game in the series, and what I noticed is levels are often designed around a specific ability or set of abilities. It feels so nice to use these abilities mechanics outside of a puzzle room. Star Allies doesn't do this. Some people like that kind of design more, however I personally find it a bit boring. I think one standout example that shows what makes Planet Robobot's design better than Star Allies is level 4-2. The level starts with these really cool fire-breathing chicken contraptions, some fans, and displays a jet ability in front of Kirby. While you can pass these chickens without the ability, with it, it's a lot easier and a lot more fun. The next room is a vertical segment that brings back those fans from earlier, but now they're pushing around poison clouds, which you have to evade. The first code cube is found here. You next encounter a Miasmoros, which you have to fight in an arena where a fan is pushing you to the right, once again iterating on the gimmick from earlier. Once you defeat the Miasmoros, you get the poison ability, which allows you to spit those poison clouds from earlier. You can use them to your advantage now to claim some healing items. Going into the next room, you can use some poison clouds to easily defeat the enemies above, and also unlock a puzzle door. In this puzzle room, you can easily nab the second code cube, and if you're thorough enough, you'll find the robot armor. Once you put this on and exit the room, you'll find a Rocky, which you'll likely absorb considering a cart that the rock armor could push away is found earlier in the level. Going through said process will grab you the special sticker of the level, and then lead you into the next and final room. In this final room, you'll find a parasol right away, which if you absorb will allow you to destroy the poison clouds from earlier, which is shown by putting them right in front of you at this point. By destroying these clouds, you'll find the third and final code cube of the level, and the level ends soon after. Just to review, this level makes good use of 4 different abilities, and makes you really think about ways of how they could be used outside of puzzle rooms. In fact, there's only one puzzle room in the whole level. This is an especially extreme example, because it's probably the best level in the game, but Planet Robobot's design shines a lot more than Star Allies. The difficulty in Star Allies is another thing people seem to be bothered by, and I'm inclined to agree that the difficulty does not really increase much, and it's fairly easy all the way through. This isn't a major issue on its own, because easy games can be fun, but Star Allies isn't all too fun, until you get to the post-game. These games only getting better during the post-game isn't an excuse for lazy design early on. Planet Robobot has an interesting post-game, but achieves a lot in its base game as well. I like easy games when they're fun, and platformers are fun when they're well designed. Star Allies isn't difficult or well designed, and while it can be fun, I hope future games use Robobot as a basis for design more than Star Allies. I do really like Star Allies as a Kirby fan, because it has a lot of cool Easter eggs and nods to fans of the series, and it is generally solid. It's not a terrible game. And that isn't all. Upon replaying it, something surprised me. Star Allies is incredibly fun, like even more fun than I remember. The design is a lot better than I remember too. Abilities are used outside of puzzle rooms, even if it isn't as common as Robobot, nor as extreme as the example I used from before. And while puzzle pieces definitely aren't as fun to collect as code cubes, they still have more incentive to them than I let on originally. Now if the game is fairly well designed and can hold its own as a Kirby adventure, why is it that the game gets such a bad rap? Well, let me put it in this perspective. This was the 4th game in a very similar line, and we had just come off of one of the best in the series. Star Allies itself was the first HD mainline Kirby title, so expectations were high, and we got something that Robobot outclassed in most ways. And with that, it turned off a lot of people from the series, and I really think if they were to come out with Star Allies 2, it wouldn't get a happy response either. I feel like Star Allies is going to be looked upon a lot more fondly in the future, but for now, it's time to move on, which leads to my next point. In 1996, Mario went 3D. In 1998, Sonic and Zelda went 3D. In 2002, Metroid went 3D. It's 2021. Kirby still hasn't gone 3D. Now, to be fair, Kirby doesn't need 3D, and it'd be very hard to make Kirby into a 3D game. But if you were to take the right steps, it could be very good. Kirby's design and character traits are built for exploration and experimentation. Having loads of abilities at your disposal and being able to fly around anywhere can make for a game more open than most of what's out there. I originally saw 3D Kirby being a lot more like Amazing Mare and Breath of the Wild, but upon further consideration, I'm not sure that would work too well for the Pink Puff. I feel a sandbox title might work best for him, but with separate worlds. Just exploring around and finding collectibles up above and down below you, the game could have a big focus on verticality, which you don't often see in 3D platformers. It could lead to Kirby being a lot more unique and possibly even innovative. Something more linear like Super Mario 3D World could also work, and with how much I've been enjoying my replay of it, I'd be satisfied with either style 100%, as long as Kirby goes 3D in general. Kirby going 3D, no matter if it decides to be linear or more open, will innovate on the series quite a bit. Now, could they just improve Kirby's current 2D formula and make it into something more unique and interesting than Kirby Star Allies? Yes, they could. Would that make more people interested in the series? Probably not. While Kirby has mass appeal in his character design, his games only really appeal to his core fans. Changing things up could make a big difference, especially after Star Allies drew a lot of people away from the series. Also, 3D games just sell more on Switch. Look at Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild compared to New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe and Link's Awakening. While 2D titles are doing well, it's easy to notice that the 3D ones are doing much better. 3D games cause more buzz. 3D games spark more innovation. 3D would make Kirby more fun. Kirby needs 3D. Now, I'm not going to act like 3D will solve all of Kirby's problems and make everyone love the series. It will not. A 3D Kirby game that's more innovative, however, could make a lot more people interested in the series. That, along with improving the games in general, is what I really want. I touched on this earlier, but while Kirby may still be doing well in its community, it's not really gaining new fans. Star Allies is one reason for this, but how Kirby games play just doesn't appeal to a whole lot of people. I decided to ask some people why this is, and here's a summation of the responses I got. There were a good variety of things I heard from this, but the most common was definitely that they felt that modern Kirby was not worth $60, specifically citing Star Allies. Star Allies seemed to turn off a lot of people from the series, and disappointed even some longtime fans. Many didn't even buy the game because of the reception and how simple the game looked. This really shows to me that Star Allies being what it is didn't really help the Pink Puff all too much. Though I do feel it's important to mention that Star Allies also did get some people back into the series, so not everything about it is harmful. Even so, the majority of previous fans and non-fans cite it as one of the reasons they've been turned off from the series. At the same time, the Kirby series also just isn't for everyone. No matter how much you change, some of the core elements just don't gel with people. I did get a good bit of clamor for change and innovation as well, so a lot of things that I feel are problems with the series do seem to echo with non-fans. Innovation has definitely benefited HAL in the past, because I've seen people who aren't big fans of the series cite Robobot as their favorite, and others say that if it weren't for Amazing Mare being their first, they might have not been into the series. While those games don't completely shake up the formula, they both try new things which make them a lot more interesting despite what their quality may be. The same can be said about Kirby innovating in 3D, another thing I specifically saw a good bit of requests for. I do think in this day and age, the quality would matter a lot more than it did in 2004 with Amazing Mare. While that game is good, I do have a lot of problems with it, and I don't think it's great. But it did innovate, and I can give it that. What I've come to conclude is this. If Kirby were to not change at all, non-fans, and many fans themselves, would be dissatisfied, so it would benefit HAL Laboratory to try something new. Kirby isn't a bad series. It never was, and it never will be. But the direction it's going in is sending the series on a decline. Luckily, HAL staff themselves have said the next Kirby title will be the pinnacle of the series, which brings my hope up for them finally doing what the series needs and innovating in 3D. This video is very hard to write. I love Kirby, and it's hard to say mean things about his series, but I and many others seem to believe the series needs criticism to improve. Kirby Star Allies is not a bad game, but if it's a sign of things to come, it concerns me. I don't want Kirby to stay the way it is now forever, especially when there is potential to innovate, which is why I want him to. Along with that, change would help Kirby gain new fans, and I want more people to try the Pink Puffs games, old and new. Change is a word I've used a lot in this video, and it's a bit of a trigger word for me. Many of the changes in my life that have stuck with me are the bad ones. Going through the process of this video, something that didn't occur to me until now is that there's a reason for that. Good changes are something you get used to, something that just feels right and sticks. Those things don't really go along with the negative connotation I associate with the word change. Reflecting upon myself, I've made a lot of positive changes in my life. It'd be hard to go back to how things were before these things happened, even if sometimes transitioning into those changes may have been hard. I don't want to make this too much about me though, so let's tie this all back to Kirby. If Kirby as a series changes its direction, it won't be a change for the worse. It will be a good change. That, in a few years, we'll be used to. And even initially, it will be nice. Change can be scary, but Kirby innovating won't make those old games disappear, so even those who don't like the changes can go back to them, and I feel most will feel it's for the better anyway. Will anything stop me from loving this adorable pink pup and his series of games? No, but I don't want his series to decline either, because a lot of people are going to lose interest, if they hadn't already. He's got all he can think. He's got maximum pink. And if he does some things right, Kirby can be the one. Right back at ya.